What's the full name of your farm and where are we located?
We are in Yolo County, just outside of Davis. They consider this rural West Davis, and this farm is called Farm Davis.
And how long have you been farming for?
So before 2009, there was not a plant that had survived my touch. So in 2009, we started with a toxic piece of land in San Francisco as a part of my graduate thesis work at California College of the Arts. And then we moved the operation to Davis. And it took me about a month, but I convinced my husband to convert our front lawn into a community farm. So we started in 2009. It's now 2017. We have 3 locations, and our largest one is the one that we're at, and it's called Farm 2.6 because it's 2.6 acres.
And what kind of produce are you growing out here? What kind of crops do you?
So we consider this a market farm in that we grow a variety of different foods that are seasonal. This summer we've got our peppers, corn, tomato, watermelon, cucumber, zucchini, onions, and we have about 70 fruit trees, most of them peaches, plums, and apricots, nectarines.
And what do you love about your job?
I love sharing this. About 3 weeks ago, we had a group of people come and they had never seen a watermelon growing. So not only did they get to see that, but we wanted them to harvest the watermelons, and they started filming each other. So the whole group, and by the way, they were Chinese. So in Chinese, everybody would yell, "cut." And they would be holding the watermelon and cut it.
Oh,
and then
awesome.
They each got their picture taken with watermelons. And so at that point, I had remembered what I love about it, and is that growing food is magic. And sharing that and watching people get so excited about a watermelon is why I do this.
And if you could say, what are your biggest challenges or hardships on the farm, what would you say?
Because we're a community farm, there are some things that happen that we don't have control over. For example, there was a time when we were planting tomatoes and somebody else was weeding. And so as we were planting tomatoes down the line, somebody was weeding them out. So we've had some poor communication moments where not everybody was in on the same project. We've had some water snafus. We had a 1-week drought last week in 100-degree temperature where someone accidentally turned off the water. So I think our biggest challenge is that we are working with the community, and we accept that. We understand that working with the community brings certain challenges like miscommunication, and it's all part of, losing your watermelon is all part of having a community working together. So I'd say that's our biggest challenge right now. For a while, we couldn't figure out how to grow certain things. So we figured out a lot of that. My main farming partner, Orhan, and I took the Master Gardener series last winter. So we figured out a lot of that through the classes and just mostly through trial and error. Plus, I live in an ag town. So whatever we don't know, someone else does know. We just have to make a phone call to figure it out.
I was going to ask, what was the learning curve like for you back in 2009 when you were first starting to dabble in the world of farming?
So in 2009, we planted a variety of crops that were not even seasonal. It wasn't even appropriate to plant them at the time. It was summer and we were putting broccoli in. So the only thing we grew in San Francisco for the first 6 months was oyster mushrooms by accident. So we donated a ton of oyster mushrooms because of the wood chips that we had. And it was kind of a steep learning curve for me. I got into this mostly out of naivety. I thought this would be really easy, and I quickly learned it was very difficult. But we have a community of people here, especially in Davis, who know what they're doing, and we learn from each other. And I learned a ton in the first 2 years, and then every year I learn a little bit more. And to the point where now I'm teaching the people who come how to do it.
I was going to ask, would you mind sharing or explaining a little bit more about your community outreach programs and how you are sharing the farm with the greater community?
So you mean how we get in touch with them?
Even about your volunteer programs.
Yes. Okay. So all of the food grown here is donated to low-income and homeless people. We donate to 5 different organizations that then either cook the food for people or distribute the food to people. So because we are a nonprofit organization doing something that people find really interesting and different, we have people from in town who come, they hear about it, or sometimes I'm speaking in their class at UC Davis, and they hear about it and they come because they're curious. They come and realize that land can be shared, that it doesn't have to belong to one person, that decisions can happen with a lot of people making them, and that they own this project, that it's not just my project or my farming partner's project, but it's everybody's project. So if somebody comes, and this is why this is named the wheat field, somebody came to us in 2011 and said, I want to grow wheat. And I thought, well, that's donatable. We can do that. So he got the wheat seed. He picked out exactly what kind of wheat he wanted. We planted a portion of this, probably a third of what you see here. And we grew wheat. And then we ended up using that wheat for one of our Grow and Give meals, which is the 5th grade project when they cook for the low-income seniors. And they had made persimmon cookies out of the wheat that we grew here.
So cool.
So he learned how to grow wheat. We got to use it for a donation. The kids learned how to process wheat, how to winnow and take off the shaft, and they learned how to cook with the wheat. So everything we do here when we bring in the community, and this is the magic of a community, this is what's special about a community, is people bring in their talents or what they're curious about, and we make it into a greater project. It's never just one person's project. There's always a long-term story that attaches to the project, like, for example, the wheat field.
Very cool. And then as far as sustainability programs and projects that you have on the farm, could you share a little bit about what you have set up?
So everything we do is on a shoestring budget. We don't sell anything. We believe that food is a human right, that nutrition is a human right, and we do not sell anything that we grow. So because we have no money and we rely on grants like yours, we do find ways of doing things very inexpensively. So very little of what you see on this farm has actually been purchased. Most of it's been salvaged from the Yolo County dump. So we have a friend who works at the dump, and he's on the committee that manages the dump. He texts me a few times a week. I mean, this morning I got, do you want a mailbox? So we don't necessarily need a mailbox, but he has also great ideas. So in our vineyard, what's holding the vines up used to be bed frames. So he has a welding machine or whatever, welder, and he made pieces for us, and they work great to hold up wire for our vineyard. In our greenhouse, there was a fraternity that was changing out all their windows, so we took fraternity windows to make our greenhouse. The irrigation, most of it was salvaged either from other farms or from the dump. All of our fencing was from the dump. And we're tricky about how we reuse things, what we imagine working for them. We have containers that are supposed to be holding pencils, and we use that to cover plants that have too much sun. It has holes all the way around it. So we have different ideas for stuff. We also have a gray water system attached to the washing machine at my house, and it waters 4 of the trees in one of our orchards.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for having us out here this afternoon. Yeah, this is such a special place, and you're right. You can feel that sense of magic, what you're doing and how you're bringing people together and really utilizing things that would otherwise maybe go to waste. So thank you so much. Yeah, indeed.